All right, let's talk about something we've all been through, right? That one big, high-stakes meeting that's supposed to somehow sum up an entire year of your hard work. But what if we could totally flip that script? What if we could turn performance feedback from this dreaded annual thing into a continuous, productive dialogue? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
So let's just ask it outright. Is the annual performance review dead? It's a question a lot of us have probably thought about. You know that feeling of anxiety, trying to remember every single thing you did 11 months ago? It just feels like a system built for another time, doesn't it? So yeah, is it time to finally say goodbye to the old once-a-year review? Let's take a look.
Okay, so before we can figure out a better way forward, we have to get really clear on why the old model is so broken. Let's start by diagnosing the core problems with that traditional approach. I mean, just think about it for a second. When you only get feedback once a year, it's usually way too late to actually do anything about it. The conversations almost always get stuck in the past, right? Often focusing on mistakes instead of looking at future potential. And honestly, it creates this super high-stress situation for everybody involved, and it feels completely disconnected from the real work you're doing day in and day out.
So if that old system just isn't cutting it, what's the alternative? What do people actually need to feel supported and, to grow in their jobs? Turns out the answer is surprisingly simple, but it's also pretty profound.
And this right here, this is the key. This shows a huge shift in how we think about feedback. It's not just for fixing problems or dealing with conflict anymore. It's something that people actively want. They see it as a tool for growth, a way to know they're on the right track, and a sign that their development actually matters. They want it all the time, not just when something's gone wrong.
And that leads us directly to the solution, the continuous conversation model. This is the framework that really addresses all those flaws of the annual review, because it meets that fundamental human need for an ongoing dialogue.
So, what does this actually mean? What does it look like? Well, it's not about scheduling a ton of new meetings, that's for sure. It's about creating an ongoing dialogue. It means giving feedback in real time, right when it's most relevant, and making sure everyone is on the same page about goals. But most importantly, the entire focus is on looking forward, on professional development.
I mean, when you put them side by side, the difference is just night and day. We're moving from this once-a-year, backward-looking thing that's all about stress and ratings to an ongoing, forward-looking conversation that's all about growth and alignment. It's a huge shift from judgment to development.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually make it happen? How do you put it into practice? Let's break down how you can build this into a real, achievable strategy for any team.
Look, the objective here is really direct. We want to apply this model to make feedback something that's truly effective and happens all the time. This isn't about checking a box for some new HR process, it's about building a sustainable habit, a core skill for great leadership.
And you can get started with 3 simple, super actionable steps. First, schedule regular, really lightweight check-ins, maybe just 15 minutes every week. Second, make it a habit to give timely feedback, both the good stuff and the constructive stuff, right when it happens. Don't save it up for later. And third, always frame these conversations around the future. Ask things like, what are you learning? And how can I support what you're doing next?
So as we start to wrap up, let's pull back and look at the bigger picture for a second. Adopting this model isn't just a tiny tweak to a process. It's about fundamentally changing the culture of your team and your whole organization for the better.
So why does this matter so much? Well, because a continuous conversation directly boosts engagement. When people feel heard, they're more invested. It builds a culture of trust and gets rid of that awful gotcha feeling of the annual review. And because of all that, it just accelerates how fast people can develop their skills. The end result? A much stronger, higher performing team. It's that simple.
At the end of the day, changing the way we handle feedback doesn't start with a new policy or a memo from HR. It starts with a simple conversation. So whether you're a manager thinking about your team or you're an employee thinking about your own career, the real power is in that very next conversation. So what's the next one you're going to start?